Okay. I believe I'm live in both places that I'm supposed to be. Oh, let me move ugly things. So, this is interesting. Give me 2 seconds. That'll distract me. Much better. So, I am live on YouTube and I'm live on TikTok. Just to save time because I actually am kind of was led to share something that wasn't my actual theme or it kind of is, but it kind of isn't for today. The title was feeling the energy before you can name it. And so my posts today have been, excuse me, this half wet hair is driving me nuts. Do you feel the energy? Like when you walk into a room, do you feel in your body that there's good vibes or bad vibes, or maybe something's just off or whatever? Everybody can feel that. It's just if we're aware of it. Some of us aren't aware. I gotta get rid of the glare. Sorry. Some of us aren't aware of what we're feeling. So we can feel that energy before we can actually name what it is, or even understand what's going on. And we may not. We may just know that it feels off, or we may just know that it's really high vibe and it feels great, and it raises up our vibration. And I was talking to somebody earlier on one of my posts. They said, what do you mean? And I said, like, when you walk into a room, do you feel that something is different? You feel, I guess, like atmosphere. And it's just the environmental energy. So that's what my content has been about today, is how you feel energy, and when your internal energy is off, or when the energy in your home and in your family is off, and learning how, or having someone like me come in and do a reset, either for you personally or in your home. And that's what has been my theme for today, because of this launch with this new suite of offers. But then as I was doing my own reset, I had worked this morning for several hours and done things, and I knew I needed to just take that time to pause. And so I set an alarm or a timer for 30 minutes, and I turned on some high frequency music, and I just laid down. And if I napped, whatever. There was no agenda, no intention, except for I need to pause. I need to come back to center and see what's coming through for the rest of my day. And it was really interesting. If you're on my Facebook, I posted some pictures earlier today from yesterday. The desert's been crazy ever since I got back from the Caribbean. It's been cloudy and rainy and cold in the desert. Yesterday I took pictures of these really creepy, funky clouds, and if you know my son James, you know that he was a creepy kid. Sometimes he was our little quiet creeper. And these clouds, the two pictures looked kind of like sunglasses, and then the last one just looked like somebody was watching. And when I first looked at them, I'm like, the fuck, they're creepy. And then I was like, Oh, it's my kid telling me, "Hey, mom, I'm watching you," and he is. They're always with me, both of them, Doug and James. And so as I'm laying there and just, you know, letting, being the observer of the thoughts, whatever's coming through, not having any judgment, and kind of like meditation, but just focusing on my breath and letting everything just flow. And I remembered stories that I hadn't thought about in years, and it was kind of interesting. Um, Thinking about, I don't know, there was some sadness today, and I guess, it's been, they also sent me rainbows yesterday too. So, and I miss my boys. Yes, I would give anything to have them back in their human form and be able to hug them again. But I don't usually get that sadness. I know what triggered it. In one of the parent loss groups, a lady had written a letter from her son, and it brought tears. I didn't cry, but it triggered, you know, because he died from addiction also. And so many of it could be that exact letter could have been to any of us from our children that we've lost. Or even if we haven't, they have been struggling with addiction for many. And so I'm sure that that's what triggered it. But I know they're with me. They're constantly with me. They send me messages all the time. They talk to me all the time. They send me clouds and rainbows. But these two stories came up as I'm laying there, in that liminal space between conscious and not. And the holidays are coming, and none of my family is here. So, that's always something that I feel, because we've always had huge family dinners, and you had 10 kids in the house plus all the other kids call me mom. And holidays are huge and busy and loud and fun, and yes, I miss it, and yes, I don't, kind of that thing. But what came up was the one Thanksgiving or Christmas. I think it was Thanksgiving. It might have been Christmas, but I don't remember for sure. That Doug tried to cut himself in half with a chainsaw. He was out in the garage building a doghouse for whatever stray dog he had brought home, and somehow caught his hoodie on the chainsaw. I don't know why he was using a chainsaw to build a doghouse. This was Doug. Come on, if you know Doug. This was 18-year-old Doug. So, and then in that, as that story, that memory came through, then right on the tail end of that came around time, same house. James would have been about 10, and he tried to decapitate himself in the bathroom window. Not intentionally, obviously, but the bathroom window didn't stay, and it was an old, over 100-year-old house. So heavy, old window frames, and we always had to put something in that window to keep it up. Well, he had shoved the window up and stuck his head out because his older brothers and whoever was out on the balcony. It was a flat roof that they used like a balcony, and they had the bedrooms on either side of the bathroom, and they have these long, huge, old windows, and they would just use them like doorways. They would crawl out their windows and hang out on the flat roof. Well, the little kids were not allowed to be out there because it wasn't safe. There was no railing, there was no balcony. So he had stuck his head out the bathroom window to see what the older kids were doing, and the window fell on the back of his neck. Terrified me, how badly that could have damaged him or killed him. And so those two thoughts came through like one right after another. And it's like, then the gratitude of I had them for another 18 and 19 years before, I could have lost them both in those moments. And I didn't. I had another 18 years with Doug and 19 years with James. And just the gratitude of those years, that time and the memories that I got to build over another almost 2 decades. And the fact that they are still with me, and they're my biggest cheerleaders and my biggest guides and my biggest truth tellers. And just letting that sadness move through, because it wasn't very long. It wasn't like a fall on the floor in fetal position or anything, and not really any tears. Yes, I teared up reading that letter this morning, and then when I was resting, I felt, the tears sting, but it's not like I hold them back either, because I let it flow. You have to lean in, you have to feel it, you have to let it cross through and let it move. That's emotions, are energy in motion, and if we don't let them move, they get stuck. But it was just a fleeting, most emotions last about 90 seconds, and that's probably about what it was. The sadness of not having them present in their human form will always be there. But then they started talking to me and saying how proud they were. And with this new awareness and this new timeline and I stepped into a whole different reality when I came back from our family vacation. We went on a Caribbean cruise last week. 3 of my kids and my son-in-law and 2 of my grandsons, and we had a blast, and we needed it so bad, because the last 2 years, the only time I've spent with my kids has either been funerals, hospitals, and 2 graduations times. My youngest daughter graduated with her BA and then her master's. I did get to go home for a few days each time then. But those were not, even though it was a celebration, there was also other chaos and things going on, and we were all still in the newness and depths of the grief from losing Doug and then losing James. And well, the second one, we hadn't lost James yet, but there was still lots of family chaos, lots of things going on, all kinds of still active trauma. And James was here when I went home for the last graduation. No, the first one. Yeah. And leaving him alone here, knowing that, he was in active addiction, that was kind of scary. Leaving him with my dogs in my car, and, that was kind of terrifying. So those were the kinds of family things we've had in the last 2 years. And several of the kids were out last year. They came out here to do an ash ceremony, which that was a higher vibration, because it was the 1-year anniversary of Doug's death, and we took both their ashes up on the mountain, and we got to spend several days together at a resort, and it was great. But it was still revolved around the grief and the loss. So this cruise we've been planning for almost 2 years, since soon after Doug died, and we finally went, and it was so good to just unplug and get to enjoy my family without anything external chaos. There was no chaos. We were on a ship in the middle of the Caribbean, and we just had a good time and got to relax and enjoy each other's company. And then I knew coming home that my reality, my world was going to change drastically. Um, and I had known that going. So I have had this week, I got home late Saturday night and had vacation hangover, but I think several of us caught a bug while we were gone, because a few of us have been sick off and on all week, but not terribly sick, just not normal and not 100%, which was fine because I had nothing to do and nowhere to be. Uber deactivated me several days before I left for the cruise. And then, so I couldn't keep my rental car because I couldn't pay 2 weeks ahead in order to keep my car while I was gone. So when I got back, I had the car Sunday, and then Monday I had to return it. So Sunday I really was in vacation hangover and travel hangover. And I picked up my puppy, James's puppy, and that was about all I did all day. I didn't even go get Roxy because I didn't feel good and I wasn't safe to be driving. And so Monday I went and did the rest of my errands that I needed to get done before I turned the car back in, got the car all cleaned out and ready to go. And then I was just telling my daughter yesterday, we were on the phone, and I said, this several days that I have nowhere to be, no way to go anywhere unless I walk, has been really interesting, but really awesome too. I don't remember a time in my life when I've had 4 or 5 days, 6 days, I don't even know, it's Friday, I think, that I didn't have to worry about someone else or multiple someone else's. Schedule, I didn't have to set alarms, I didn't have to be anywhere or do anything. I've just been able to focus on me and focus on what I desire and where I'm going with my business and my mission and the boys' legacy. And this new offer suite that I launched yesterday came about in about 12 hours. The high ticket offer I had already created earlier this week, but the rest of it, there's like 4 other different offers, smaller offers that have just came about in the last 36 hours or something. And it's been so cool, so exciting. And I have stepped into a whole different timeline and different higher version of myself. And this time freedom has allowed me to do that, to take stock in seeing where I'm not supposed to be hustling anymore. I've known this for months, and I just hadn't made that choice to trust and to jump. And so Spirit took away that little bit of income that I had that I was hustling for, and then took away the transportation that I had to do that. I had several cash riders that I picked up 7 days a week and took them back and forth to work, or took them to running errands or to the doctors, whatever. So I was living around everybody else's schedules and then fitting time and then fitting my business, my movement into what was left, which was very little. And now I came, I was like, okay, I'm not going to have a vehicle. I don't know when I'm not. I think the last time I didn't have a vehicle was when I came back here 4 years ago, and it was only for 3 days. Yeah, that was the last time I didn't have a vehicle. So it's not formal reality for me, but it's been so cool to step into my power and who I am and who I came here to be and what I'm supposed to be doing to serve, and moving this movement and this mission and my boy's legacy forward in a huge, fast way. And that's what this launch is about, and what this newer version of me is all about. And that knowing that this is exactly where I'm meant to be, and that I'm supported and I am taken care of, and I don't have to worry and stress, and I don't have to hustle for scraps, and I don't have to live my life around other people's schedules just to survive. I was people pleasing in a different way than I had been my whole life, but it was still that, Yes, they're my friends, and yes, I love their company and I liked helping them out, but it was taking up so much of my time, and I didn't even realize it until I stopped. And it's like, now I can just focus on me and what my next steps are and what's aligned for me and where this movement is going. And so, even though that doesn't quite tie into what my theme was for today, it still kind of does, because your body knows. The energy is always there telling you, and we feel it. We feel it in our energetic field, we feel it in our body, we feel it in our emotions. And when we slow down and when we pause and allow ourselves to be aware, then we can find out what it's teaching us, where it's guiding us, what do we need to peel back, what do we need to release, whatever it is, we can have that awareness when we're intentional about it. Because when we get so busy and we're running and we're hustling and we're doing all the things and we don't take that time, we don't hear our intuition and we don't hear our guides and our soul and our higher selves talking, because those small, quiet voices get drowned out by all the chaos and all the noise. And so that's how it ties back into my theme for today, because when you're in that chaos and the energy is not aligned and it's not calibrated and you're not coming back to center and coming back to your peace, you miss out on that intuitive voice. You miss out on those thoughts that move you forward. And that's why you need to reset and recalibrate. And that's what this whole new suite of offers is about, is helping you to reset and then move on to resurrection. Because you can't move forward, you can't do the healing, you can't feel that, you can't walk through that fire of resurrection if you're not regulated. So that's where the resets come in. And the link is in the YouTube description. I still have not figured out how to put anything into TikTok. So you either have to go to my profile or find me on Facebook or any of the other socials or send me a message. I'll go through and read comments because I took off my glasses because I can't stand the glare. I'm going to start doing these earlier in the day so I don't have to have lights on and shadows and glare in my glasses. So have a wonderful rest of your day, your night, whatever time it is, and I will see you next time.